week's Bizline, businesses face huge challenges during the first half of 2023. And later on, effective support packages for businesses to overcome challenges. Hello and welcome to Bizline on VTV International. I'm Hoàng Hằng. Positive developments has been recorded in the somewhat bleak economic picture during the first 6 months of the year, with the gross domestic product or GDP increasing by 4.14%. In the first half of the year, Vietnam recorded a trade surplus of 12.25 billion US dollars, which is 10 times higher than the same period last year. Inflation remains under control and is gradually moving away from the 4.5% threshold set by the National Assembly for 2023. Experts say that these positive signs come from the flexible management policies of the government. Support policies, together with enterprises' efforts to overcome difficulties, have created momentum for the recovery and development of the whole economy. So what policies have been applied to support businesses in overcoming challenges? What policies should be implemented to support businesses and the overall economy in surmounting the storm in the near future? This is also the focus of this week's Bizline. But first, let's watch the following video to gain a better understanding of the difficulties and challenges that businesses and the Vietnamese economy face in the first 6 months of this year.
In the first half of this year, the global economy faced major headwinds due to inflation and geopolitical instability. Despite recording a downward trend, inflation remains a problem in many countries. As an open economy, Vietnam has been affected. Exports have been hit by weakening global demand. However, despite the gloomy picture overall, there are still many bright spots. Domestic consumption remains strong. Increasing demand was seen as the driving force for the whole economy. The domestic market has become a fulcrum for businesses during this time of global fluctuations.
Generally, when we ask about the mood in Vietnam, people are happy, people are optimistic. So I think the key here is to keep the domestic market going, so that the services market and the domestic consumption can kind of, help the country to bounce back from the shocks that arrives externally.
Many indexes, after a long period of decline, have recorded an increase in the second quarter. This shows signs of a significant change happening.
Quý 2 thì các cái chỉ tiêu kể cả công nghiệp, nông nghiệp và dịch vụ cũng đều tích cực hơn so với quý 1 khi mà cả hệ thống chính trị cùng vào cuộc từ trung ương đến địa phương trong việc là chúng ta sẽ tháo gỡ những cái khó khăn từ nhỏ cho đến những cái vướng mắc lớn.
Global difficulties have caused Vietnam's economy to grow below expectations. At the end of 2022, economic, political, and social fluctuations were only recognized as risks and challenges. During the first half of this year, businesses took a hit. Most businesses found it difficult to access loans, no new orders were placed, and input costs also increased.
I think Vietnam is being impacted by global headwinds, which are impacting economies around the world. So inflationary pressures caused by tight labor markets and constrained supply chains are impacting growth around the world. And Vietnam is also being impacted by that slowdown.
Now, apart from the achievements, many risks and challenges still lie ahead for businesses. More than ever, businesses need support from the government to overcome challenges in the coming months. To discuss this, we'd like to introduce Mr. Bùi Ngọc Tuấn, tax partner of Deloitte Vietnam, to further discuss this issue. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, first of all, the ongoing global geopolitical instability poses significant difficulties and challenges for the world economy. So how would this affect Vietnam?
So, during the National Assembly meeting, there are a lot of reasons were stated during the meet. There's still challenges coming from outside, instability, volume of import-export also decline. Quite significant compared to the period before the pandemic. and which lead to the lower IPP, the index for industrial production, also reduce and impact to a lot of businesses. And so the consequence of that is the non-performing loan also increase, and the credit ratio is also reduced. So those size and the statistic numbers say that we are facing a lot of challenges during the first 6 months.
In the first half of this year, there were many tax and fee support policies to help businesses recover as well as create momentum for economic growth. So what do you think about the effectiveness of these policies?
Yeah, well, despite of those existing challenges, we have to recognize some positive points that Vietnam economy has achieved. Firstly, the COVID-19 was have been fully under control, and so it opened a lot. Actually, it is fully open for a lot of business sectors, and it will boost the commercial activities more and more among the businesses. The government issued the Resolution 58, in which there are a lot of direction for a lot of government agencies to issue timely the positive policies to support the businesses and the civils. And so, in general, the businesses see, it is quite promising for the coming period. The next one is, we have to recognize that the retail sector has grown more than 12% for the first 6 months. The other good point is, although we see the fluctuation of CPI and inflation during the first 6 months, but after the 6 months, it is still all under control and below the 4%, which is the planned ratio from the National Assembly set up at the beginning of the year. I think the most important one is the deferral of the tax payment for all taxpayers, including individual and businesses, organization. And that one is really we can say that it's a very good injection to the business, so that it can save more money to do more investment and putting into the production.
Exports have decreased by 50% compared to last year. Global economic difficulties have caused a sharp decrease in demand in many countries, including some of Vietnam's key export markets. High logistics costs have also had a significant impact on the production and business activities of this enterprise.
A huge rise in the cost of logistics and the time. There were goods that were for a long time kept at ports. Port charges increased, the cost of container shipments increased significantly, shipping lines lost control over how they were managing shipping. So the whole logistics industry changed significantly, and it presented itself as a huge risk to us.
This enterprise faces difficulties not only in terms of output but also with the costs of importing raw materials. As such, it hopes some direct solutions can be issued.
Những cái chính sách, những cái nghị quyết của chính phủ là để nhằm cho tháo gỡ cho những khó khăn doanh nghiệp đây, thì đầu tiên là mình cũng đã thấy phấn khởi. Thấy nhất là phấn khởi vì thấy là những cái tháo gỡ đó thì nó đều là đi vào trực tiếp vào những cái vấn đề mà hiện nay các doanh nghiệp đều đang gặp phải. Các thủ tục hải quan, thủ tục về thuế thì thuận tiện cho doanh nghiệp, thì tất cả những điều đó là những điều mà giúp cho doanh nghiệp có thể tiết kiệm được các cái chi phí.
This plastic factory is having trouble getting loans. As such, the enterprise believes the government's direction to the state bank to provide businesses with capital for production and operations has been crucial.
Nguồn vốn là rất quan trọng. Thì cũng mong là thông qua cái nghị quyết 58 lần này thì các cái doanh nghiệp sản xuất như chúng tôi sẽ dễ dàng tiếp cận hơn và có mức lãi suất nó phù hợp.
The recent initiatives concerning tax are most welcome because it gives us a little more breathing space about times of payment. So it's most appreciated.
I also think all the things are really supportive, especially when we talk about cash flow, about finance planning, all the things in the decree 58 are really useful for companies. Maybe they are not deciding, but they are for sure supporting to overcome the current situation of many companies.
According to experts, Resolution 58 covers most businesses' financial problems and immediate issues involving output markets, capital, and labor. For this reason, it's important that the policy be put into practice soon.
Trong thời gian tới, tôi nghĩ là chúng ta cần phải có một cái chế tài rất là cụ thể, gắn trách nhiệm và quy trách nhiệm cho từng cấp, từng ngành và đặc biệt là người đứng đầu để làm sao cho là xây dựng cái kế hoạch, cái lộ trình cụ thể, triển khai các cái giải pháp khá đồng bộ mà được giao cụ thể cho từng bộ, từng ngành, từng địa phương.
In addition, Resolution 58 also urges the acceleration of the disbursement of investment capital, especially public investment capital, and the removal of obstacles in construction. This is considered an important driving force to promote the manufacturing industry and support economic recovery.
Now, talking a little bit more in depth about Resolution 58, that resolution have specific instructions on extending the deadline for VAT payment, corporate income tax, personal income tax, and land rent in 2023. So at this time, when businesses are facing many difficulties, how do these policies impact their operations?
You know, in business, cash is king. Yeah, cash is king. So the more cash a business can reserve to put it into recycled in the business cycle and circulation is the better. Yeah. So you know, it is estimated that under this new policy, the total tax, not really saving but defer reserve for the businesses could be up to 100 trillion dong. And it is really encouraging for the businesses so they can save money and put it in businesses. And a lot of businesses, they share that this kind of policy is like to give them, to provide them short-term loan to support the operation, and they really appreciate that kind of policy from the government.
Although there are many support policies in place, many businesses are still concerned about the potential gap between the resolution and its implementation. So what is your take on this?
Well, I think that there's always existing gap between the resolution and the actual implementation from the government agencies. However, we have to admit that during the first half, the government agency has issued a various policy. For instance, the Prime Minister issued Decision 01 in January to cut 30% of land and water surface rental for 2023. So any outstanding rental liability that they have from prior year will be cut 30%. So that's quite big saving for them. And under the Decree 12 from the government in April 2023, as we mentioned in previous discussion, about the deferral of tax payment. And recently the National Assembly already approved the proposal from the government to reduce VAT from 10% to 8%, and that will be effectively from 1st July and will be ended by the end of 2023, which is also very good for all of the businesses. Of course, there are certain worries and concerns about how to actually implement, because businesses may not have a good understanding. Last week, the government already issued Decree 46 to defer special sales tax for 3 months until the end of this year. And so those kind of policies, we see that it's more coming from the Ministry of Finance proposal, and probably because the Ministry of Finance, they are quite familiar with analyzing the social impact of the policies, and so they can faster to propose to the government and also the National Assembly to take action and to issue the policy timely. For other policies, I think that the different government agency under the assignment from the government, as noted in the Resolution 58, they are still in process to consider and to issue more positive policy in the second half of 2023. and we are looking forward that those policy will be issued soon.
Recently, the National Assembly decided to reduce the value-added tax by 2% from July 1st to the end of this year. It is applicable to all groups of goods currently subject to the 10% tax rate, except for telecommunications, real estate, securities, insurance, and banking. Many businesses expect it to act as a driving force to help reduce production costs, restore business activities, and stimulate consumer demand.
Năm nay thì tôi cũng nghe là có một cái nghị định mới vào mùng 1 tháng 7 này, thì chúng tôi cũng kỳ vọng vào là khi được giảm 2% thuế đấy thì chúng tôi có những cái sự gồng gánh để giữ người lao động, để có đảm bảo được công ăn việc làm cho người lao động.
As for this supermarket chain, the 2% VAT reduction program would help them reduce the prices of products and stimulate consumer demand in the context of economic difficulties. In addition, reduced input costs will also allow them to continue launching many promotions for customers in the coming months.
Hiện nay siêu thị chúng tôi đang áp dụng rất là nhiều các chương trình khuyến mại để có thể là hỗ trợ cho người tiêu dùng. Cụ thể như hiện nay chúng tôi đang áp dụng chương trình giá thấp mỗi ngày. Chương trình này đang được đón nhận của khách hàng rất là quan tâm và đón nhận rất là nhiều. Bên cạnh đó thì chúng tôi cũng có như là thứ tư vui vẻ hoặc là những ngày hội thành viên.
The reduction of value-added tax has stimulated consumption, contributing to the promotion of production and business development. Support policies are part of the government's and the National Assembly's efforts to cope with the current economic situation. As such, it is necessary to identify problems and find solutions. This will help remove business difficulties and contribute to national economic development.
The possibility of stagflation is like the ghost that haunts the economy. So it's a combination of both high inflation, high unemployment, and a low growth rate. It poses a threat to the monetary policy management of central banks. So what do you think about the impacts of the global stagflation on Vietnam's economy and businesses in this situation?
Well, other than the commercial perspective, money circulation in the economy is very critical and very important. High CPI and high inflation will make the central bank more carefully in monitoring the money floating in the economy, and and with that high CPI and inflation, businesses tend to save money. To save money rather than putting it in the economic circulation. And and if they are doing that, then the whole economy will be slowing down because of the money circulation is slowing down. So actually during last 6 months, the State Bank of Vietnam has 4 times reduced the basic lending rate, interest rate, basic interest rate, and with the total adjustment for the annual interest rates of about 2% after 4 times. And this kind of responses from the State Bank of Vietnam (SBV), I think received quite a lot of good appreciation from the businesses, because it can give positive impact and size to the economy from inside and also from outside. And some of the positive impacts that we can see from the reduction of the basic interest rate, including first, it will enable the middle or the commercial or the credit institution to have access to very large pool of resources, money resources from the state bank, so that they can apply a lot of the credit instruments, so that they can pull out the financial source, and then they can indirectly put it through lending to the actual businesses needing the money. It will also help that the businesses to reduce their financial expense. Financial expense, and by doing that, they will be more confident to restructure their existing loans, so that they can, and then from that they can put more into investment or to the their production to create more value for the economy.
Now, in your opinion, what policy should the government implement to stimulate the economy and support businesses in dealing with stagnation pressures?
I think that the government and the SBB should continue, monitoring the monetary market, the financial market, and see how to improve the circulation of money, within the economy. The government should consider to, of course, to continue issuing other policy following the direction in Resolution 58. And for the tax and policy, I think right now the business are quite happy with the current policy, but speeding up the amendment of the PIT law may also help, because when people having more money because they pay less PIT, they can spend more, and with that kind of behavior, then it will also improve the money circulation in the economy. And together with that, there's also a lot of other policy that the government should consider to support, to reduce the burden for businesses in terms of conditional requirement for business to operate.
This year's monetary policy will support liquidity and economic growth. The interest rate level is forecast to decrease by 1 to 2% in 2023. These statements were made in the report Vietnam Financial Market Outlook 2023 by the Asian Development Bank and BIDV. Through two recent cuts in operating interest rates, according to the report, domestic monetary policy has remained proactive and flexible despite complications in the global economy. A lowered interest rate will help boost credit demand, which grew slowly in the first quarter.
Cùng với đà phục hồi của thị trường chứng khoán, thị trường bất động sản thì hy vọng là bắt đầu từ quý 3, nhu cầu tín dụng nó sẽ ở mức độ là tăng trưởng nhanh hơn, cộng với việc là xuất khẩu rồi các đơn hàng nó sẽ quay trở lại. Và hy vọng thì cả năm nay tín dụng chúng ta có thể tăng trưởng ở mức là khoảng 13 đến 14%, và nếu tích cực có thể ở mức là 14 đến 15%.
However, Vietnam's economy and financial market may be affected by numerous factors, such as the decline in export demand and consumption and risks in the financial and real estate markets, since up to 65% of bank loan collateral is currently real estate. As such, there is a need for synchronous coordination in the development of policies.
Để giải quyết vấn đề thị trường tài chính và vấn đề thị trường vốn ở đây thì trọng tâm là gì? Là tập trung ngăn chặn cái đà sụt giảm của nền kinh tế, và để ngăn chặn cái đà sụt giảm của nền kinh tế này thì tất cả các biện pháp từ tài khóa đến tiền tệ đến đầu tư công và thậm chí là những cái về an sinh xã hội cần phải được phối hợp một cách chặt chẽ.
Experts also recommended implementing solutions to support liquidity for the system, speeding up the restructuring of weak credit institutions to limit unfair competition and focusing on reducing interest rates. At the same time, it is necessary to improve institutions to attract green capital flows from the international market.
Current support packages may require more time to be effective. With the government issuing a series of directives recently, what are your thoughts on the prospect for recovery and development of businesses in the near future?
Well, you see that even in the first quarter, GDP growth is just about 3%. But when we end the quarter two, the first half of 2023, the GDP already hit up to 4.14%. And with the forecast, the current forecast is for the whole year 2023, the GDP growth is about from 6.3 to 6.5%. I think it's achievable. It's achievable because with a lot of recent policy issued, the government really show there is flexibility in monitoring the economy. So they do hear, they do see the challenges, and they do hear the responses and behavior from from the businesses, and the government is continuing to issue more positive policy to support. And with the huge cash reserve from deferral of tax payments and reductions and things like that, and also the more injection of the and absorb of the financial source coming from the State Bank of Vietnam and also the commercial bank through the lower lending rate. We believe that a huge volume of money will be putting in the second half of 2023, and it will boost the whole economy and different sectors, economic sectors and businesses to continue developing for the second half.
Now, once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Experts believe that to support businesses and promote economic growth amid global fluctuations, Vietnam needs to continue removing barriers for businesses, thus creating confidence for the business community. In addition, it is necessary to support all businesses in accessing support packages, including production premises, capital, and human resources. In the context of global uncertainties, it is necessary to apply an expansionary fiscal policy, continue to reform institutions, and improve the business environment to help businesses overcome difficulties, thereby realizing the national development goals set forth by the government's resolution. And that wraps up this edition of Bizline. Stay with us for more content, or if you're on the go, feel free to download our app VTV Go from App Store and Google Play, or subscribe to our YouTube channel VTV4 Go. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.